A bullet rips through the air, passing mere inches from your ear, and obliterates the kerosene lamp hanging directly above your head. Shards of scorching hot glass rain down, slicing deep into your cheek. The flame drops. It hits a spilled pool of cheap rye whiskey on the poker table in front of you. Instantly, the room erupts. A roaring wall of blue and orange fire rockets toward the ceiling, consuming the dry air in a fraction of a second. You are thrown backward, your wooden chair splintering against the hardwood floor. Around you, the deafening, bone-rattling roar of a Colt. 45 rings out again. Then another. Then 6 more in rapid succession. Men are screaming. Heavy oak tables are flipping over. The air instantly thickens with the choking, metallic stench of sulfur, burning pine, and copper blood. You scramble backward, your boots slipping violently on wet, blood-slicked floorboards as the intense heat sears your eyelashes. This isn't a movie. This isn't a dramatized Western novel. This is Fort Griffin, Texas. The year is 1878. And you are currently trapped inside the deadliest saloon in the wildest, most lawless town in America. You have exactly 3 minutes to get out before this entire building turns into a massive, splintering bomb. Just 20 minutes ago, the night was entirely normal, or at least as normal as things ever get in the Babylon on the Brazos. Fort Griffin isn't a town of law, order, or quiet nights. It is a festering wound of a settlement built on buffalo hides, high-stakes gambling, and unrestrained vice. It is a place where outlaws, drifters, and killers come to hide from the law back east. You are sitting at a corner table in the infamous Beehive Saloon. The air is suffocatingly hot, thick with harsh cigar smoke, stale beer, and the heavy smell of unwashed bodies. The piano player in the corner is hammering out a fast, jagged, out-of-tune melody, desperately trying to drown out the low, menacing hum of 200 heavily armed, drunk men. You hold a pair of 8s, but you aren't looking at your cards. You are watching the men at the center table. It started over a dispute regarding a single silver dollar. A buffalo hunter with a thick, matted beard, and a cowboy with a cold, dead, unblinking stare. You see the cowboy's fingers twitch, hovering just an inch above the worn leather of his holster. You see the bartender slowly, silently step back away from the polished mahogany counter, his eyes wide with terrible anticipation. That is your first real warning. In Fort Griffin, when the bartender ducks, you hit the floor. But the crowd is too dense. The saloon girls in their tight corsets and feathered hats are laughing, completely unaware of the lethal tension snapping like a dry twig in the exact center of the room. The cowboy stands up. His chair screeches sharply against the wooden floor. The piano stops dead. The silence that follows is heavier than lead. It lasts only a fraction of a second, but it feels like an absolute eternity. Then, the flash. The muzzle flare of the cowboy's revolver illuminates the dark, smoke-filled room like a lightning strike. The buffalo hunter takes the heavy lead bullet directly in the shoulder. He roars like a wounded, cornered animal, draws his own weapon, and fires back blindly. His shot goes wide. It misses the cowboy. It hits the kerosene lamp right above your head. And now, you are on the floor, watching the flames lick the dry, untreated pine walls of the saloon. The fire moves with terrifying, unnatural speed. It doesn't just burn, it climbs. It devours the cheap, peeling wallpaper and races across the exposed ceiling joists like a living, breathing predator. Absolute, primal panic detonates inside the room. 200 people simultaneously realize they are locked inside a giant wooden box that is rapidly filling with fire. Men trample over each other, clawing at heavy winter coats, kicking down chairs, desperate to reach the swinging front doors. But the gunfire doesn't stop. Through the thick, blinding black smoke, you see violent flashes of muzzle fire. Men are using the absolute chaos to settle old scores and eliminate rivals. A saloon girl screams in sheer terror as she is shoved violently to the ground, disappearing beneath the merciless stampede of heavy leather boots. You try to stand up, but a boot catches you hard in the ribs, knocking the wind completely out of your lungs. You stay low. The smoke is already banking down from the ceiling, forming a toxic, impenetrable cloud of burning chemicals, melting varnish, and ash. You take a shallow breath and it burns your throat like battery acid. You need to move right now. You look toward the front doors. They are completely, hopelessly jammed. A crush of terrified bodies is wedged tightly in the entryway, pushing, shoving, screaming, but going absolutely nowhere. You look toward the back of the room. The flames are spreading rapidly toward a heavy, iron-reinforced oak door behind the bar. And then your blood runs completely cold, because you know exactly what the bartender keeps locked in that back room. 10 massive barrels of high-proof rye whiskey, 4 heavy wooden crates of highly flammable kerosene, and a massive stockpile of black powder for the local buffalo hunters. The fire isn't just burning a building down, it is eating its way directly toward a massive, makeshift bomb that will completely level this entire city block. You have seconds, maybe less. You crawl aggressively on your hands and knees, the ambient heat pressing down on your back like a suffocating physical weight. The noise is completely deafening. The aggressive crackle of burning dry wood sounds like rapid-fire artillery going off right next to your ears. Above you, the massive, ornate crystal chandelier, imported all the way from back east, groans loudly as its thick supporting rope catches fire and begins to fray. You roll violently to the side just as it crashes down, sending a lethal tidal wave of shattered, razor-sharp glass and burning candles across the floor. A stray bullet thunks deeply into the floorboards mere inches from your right hand. You look up. Through the swirling, blinding black smoke, you see the buffalo hunter. He is bleeding out heavily, propped against a wooden structural pillar, firing his revolver wildly at anything that moves in the haze. He is completely out of his mind with pain, shock, and panic. You scramble behind an overturned, heavy poker table, using the thick oak wood as a makeshift shield against the flying lead and intense heat. The temperature in the room is becoming utterly unbearable. Your clothes are completely drenched in sweat. Your skin feels incredibly tight, on the verge of blistering. You frantically look around for a window. Any window. To your right, past the brass spittoons and a pile of broken wooden chairs, is a small, dirty glass window leading out to the narrow side alley. It's your only chance of survival. You push off the floor with all your remaining strength and sprint. You duck under a blindly swinging fist from a panicked, coughing gambler. You leap over the motionless body of a man who didn't make it to the front door. You hit the window leading to the alley's shoulder first. The dirty glass shatters outward. You tumble out into the cool, dark night air, landing hard in the wet, muddy alleyway. You gasp desperately, pulling clean, life-saving oxygen into your burning, damaged lungs. But the sweet relief lasts only a single second. The ground beneath you shakes violently, like a massive earthquake has just struck Texas. A concussive, invisible shockwave punches you squarely in the chest, knocking you flat on your back into the mud. The back room of the saloon just went up. A massive, blinding fireball rips completely through the roof of the Beehive Saloon, shooting 50 feet straight up into the night sky. Burning, jagged debris rains down heavily on the muddy streets of Fort Griffin. Flaming chunks of wood and melting iron land on the canvas roofs of the surrounding temporary tents and the incredibly dry wooden shingles of the general store right next door. The fire has escaped the saloon. The harsh Texas wind, sweeping violently across the open plains, catches the flames and aggressively breathes life into them. Within seconds, the roof of the general store is completely ablaze, then the barber shop across the street, then the assayer's office. The entire town is rapidly turning into an inescapable furnace. people are pouring out of the neighboring buildings in their night clothes, screaming in terror, carrying whatever meager possessions they can grab in their arms. Horses tied to wooden hitching posts are rearing up wildly, their eyes wide with primal terror, snapping their thick leather reins and stampeding blindly down the dirt street, trampling anything in their path. You stagger to your feet, coughing up black phlegm. Your ears are ringing with a high-pitched whine from the sheer force of the explosion. You need to get out of this narrow alley immediately. The fire from the saloon is licking the walls, enclosing the tight space, turning it into a brick oven. You run toward the end of the alley, heading directly for the safety of the wide main street. Through the smoke, you see the dark silhouettes of men standing at the alley's exit. A massive wave of relief washes over you. The law, the local sheriff and his deputies are here to help evacuate the citizens. You wave your arms frantically, coughing soot, trying to get their attention. But as you get closer, the firelight illuminates their hands, and you realize they aren't holding water buckets or rescue ropes. They are holding lever-action Winchester rifles, and they are aiming them right down the center of the alleyway. The corrupt sheriff isn't here to save the burning town. He's using the raging fire to permanently trap his rival outlaws inside, and he doesn't care how many innocent people burn to death with them. You freeze in your tracks, your boots sinking into the wet mud. The fire is roaring like a caged beast behind you, a towering, unstoppable inferno of collapsing timber and melting glass. In front of you, 3 men with tarnished silver stars pinned to their leather dusters have their rifles raised, completely blocking the only exit to the street. Fort Griffin's lawmen are notoriously, unforgivably corrupt. They aren't peacekeepers. They are just a highly organized rival gang operating with official badges. And tonight, in the midst of this apocalyptic chaos, they see a golden opportunity to wipe the slate clean and eliminate their competition. A young, terrified cowboy bursts out of the same shattered window behind you, coughing violently and stumbling forward toward the street. "Help me!" he screams, his hands reaching out toward the lawmen. The sheriff doesn't blink. He doesn't hesitate. He simply pulls the trigger. The gunshot cuts through the roar of the flames. The cowboy drops lifelessly into the mud. You instantly press your back flat against the burning brick wall of the adjacent building. The intense heat is searing right through your cotton shirt, burning your bare skin, but you don't dare move a single muscle. You are completely trapped between a ruthless firing squad and a raging crematorium. The roaring of the flames behind you sounds exactly like a massive freight train bearing down on your position. Thick, black, oily smoke pours heavily into the alley, blinding you completely. It's becoming entirely impossible to breathe. You violently tear a piece of fabric from your sleeve, spit on it to dampen the cloth, and press it tightly over your mouth and nose. You have to think. You have to move. If you stay here, you will either catch a bullet or burn to ash. You look up through the swirling embers. Above you, a rickety wooden balcony connects the second floor of the burning saloon to the flat roof of the bank right next door. The balcony is already engulfed in creeping flames, but the thick structural beams underneath look like they might hold your weight for a few seconds. It is absolute madness. But staying in the alley is certain, undeniable death. You jump onto a stack of abandoned wooden shipping crates, ignoring the burning, stinging embers falling heavily onto your shoulders and neck. You reach up, your hands gripping the scorching hot iron railing of the balcony. The burning metal instantly blisters the palms of your hands, sending shockwaves of pain up your arms, but you grit your teeth and pull yourself up. You swing your legs over the railing just as another deputy spots movement and fires a shot blindly into the alley. The heavy bullet shatters the brick wall right where your head was a mere second ago. You are on the balcony. The heat up here is truly apocalyptic. The paint on the wooden walls is bubbling, peeling, and bursting into spontaneous flames right before your eyes. You run across the wooden planks. They groan, crack, and splinter dangerously under your weight. You leap the terrifying gap between the two buildings, suspended for a heart-stopping second over the deadly, fiery drop, before crashing hard onto the flat tar roof of the bank. You roll aggressively to break your fall, gasping desperately for air, your lungs burning with every inhalation. From this elevated vantage point, you can finally see the true, horrifying scale of the disaster unfolding below. Fort Griffin is being systematically erased from the map. A literal river of fire is flowing down the center of the main dirt street. Wooden buildings are folding in on themselves, collapsing with earth-shaking thuds, sending massive plumes of orange sparks high into the dark Texas sky. You see panicked people running in every direction, dragging their injured friends, abandoning their life savings. You hear the terrifying pop, pop, pop of loose ammunition cooking off inside a burning gunsmith shop, sending lethal stray bullets flying unpredictably in every single direction. It is absolute, unfiltered, terrifying chaos. An apocalypse born of cheap whiskey, gunpowder, and bad blood. You crawl painfully across the rough tar roof of the bank, keeping as low as physically possible to avoid the choking smoke and the watchful eyes of the corrupt lawmen down in the street. You reach the back edge of the building. It faces out toward the dark, open prairie. There is a large pile of hay bales sitting in the dirt directly below. Without hesitating, you slide your body off the edge of the roof and drop into the darkness. You hit the hay incredibly hard, tumbling violently into the dry dirt, knocking the wind out of yourself once again. You scramble to your feet, ignoring the throbbing pain in your ribs and your blistered hands, and you run. You don't look back. You run until your legs feel like lead. You run until your lungs burn from the sheer physical effort, not just the toxic smoke. You run until the horrific screams and the relentless gunfire finally fade into the quiet crackle of the distant inferno. Finally, your legs give out. You collapse into the tall, cool prairie grass, miles away from the town limits. You turn slowly and look back. The horizon is glowing a violent, angry, pulsating red. The Babylon on the Brazos is nothing but a massive, towering pillar of fire against the pitch-black night sky. You just survived the deadliest, most chaotic night in Texas history. You sit alone in the dirt, wiping the mixture of wet blood and thick black soot from your face, watching an entire town violently consume itself. Today, we take our modern safety completely for granted. When we walk into a crowded room, a bar, or a theater, we don't obsessively think about the fire exits. We don't worry about the flammability of the building materials. We have loud fire alarms, automatic sprinkler systems, and highly trained first responders whose sole mission is to save lives, not take them. We exist in a carefully engineered world designed specifically to protect us from sudden disaster. But in 1878, out on the raw, bleeding edge of the American frontier, there was absolutely no safety net. There were no clearly marked emergency exits. There were no fire trucks waiting on standby. There were no guarantees that you would live to see tomorrow. There was only dry wood, highly combustible whiskey, and desperate men with incredibly fast hands and terrible tempers. Your survival didn't depend on a structural system or a building code. It depended entirely on your own raw instincts, your physical speed, and pure, blind, unbelievable luck. You survived Fort Griffin, but so many others didn't, and their ashes are still buried out there, lost forever beneath the unforgiving Texas dirt. If you felt the blistering heat of the fire and the massive adrenaline rush of the escape, hit the subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below and tell me the truth. Would you have made it out of the burning Beehive Saloon alive, or would you have been caught in the crossfire? Keep watching, and I'll take you deep into the heart of the next historical nightmare.